Good morning and welcome. And welcome to Fight CPS with your host, Bob Pace. It's Sunday now, February the 16th. And you have found the right spot. And it is How to Fight CPS with me, your host, Bob Pace. And I want to help you all with your particular case this morning. Now, I know that CPS is something that has been very troublesome to you. It's been troublesome to me too. I've been fighting CPS for 15 years. It's a government entity that is supposed to protect our children from neglect or abuse. It's mandated by Congress in the United States that our children must be protected from them being abused or neglected. It is true. There are many thousands of children that are being abused and neglected every day. But unfortunately, there are entities out there that have gone rogue. What I mean by that is that every county and every state entity that's out there, and they're supposed to do protection. Not only that, this particular entity is also supposed to provide you with food and shelter and clothing and transportation and education and medical and even a job. And if it's necessary to take apart the family because the children are in danger, they're supposed to do family reunification. That means where they bring the family back together, where the parents take classes and programs to better themselves. Because it's been proven that the best family are the biological parents raising the children. Studies have shown that the best parents are the biological parents. Now, during this next hour, I hope that y'all will participate in this podcast. I am live from the West Coast of California, and I'm in Surf City, USA, 3 blocks from the ocean, south of LA. And this reaches out to everyone, not only in the United States, but around the world. I've had 21 countries that have participated in this podcast that have had questions and wanted answers. And so I am here to help you understand, to help you fight and get your children back. Now, there are 4 ways that you can participate in this room. One of the first ways is that you found me, and I'm glad that you did. And you can express express your feelings. One, by showing emojis, thumbs up, happy faces, hearts, or even send me stars. Also, if you want to see me all the time, please follow. You just check the button down below. And then also there is a notification if you want to know exactly when I'll be on. I have a group of regulars that are on the show. And they come here quite often. It's about 20 to 50 of you, and I really appreciate your support and help. Now, a lot of you may not know what CPS is. Maybe it's the first time you've been exposed to it. What CPS, what I call CPS, it's the Child Protection Systems. Every county, every state, and every country. Yes, I do mean countries because this is worldwide. I have about 21 countries right now that have participated in this podcast, from Indonesia to Bangladesh to India to Libya to Saudi Arabia, then over to Africa to Liberia, then to Sudan to Rwanda to Mozambique, and then 4 provinces in South Africa. Then from there, we go up to Europe and have England, Scotland, and Wales, and Denmark and Sweden. Then across the pond to North America, I've had Canada, 4 provinces there. Then I have the United States, which I've talked to every state in the Union. And also I've talked to the District of Columbia. Then south of the border at Mexico, and then down to South America to Grenada. Then across the Pacific Ocean to the land of New Zealand and the land down under called Australia. And I've talked to 2 states there in Australia. So it's well diverse. It's about over 900 people I've talked to over the last 16 months. And they've all shared their woes and their problems with CPS, their woes and problems of CPS. Now, this entity, the Child Protection System, has many different names. In California, even in different counties next to each other, you have the Child Protection Services, Department of Children and Family Services. In Arizona, it's Department of Children Services, DCS. Then in Kentucky, it's called the Cabinet. No matter where you're at, it has different names, but they all boil down to one thing. They're supposed to protect your children from neglect and abuse and do family reunification. But I find out that all you have something common. They aren't protecting you, and they are giving you a hard time about getting your child back. They're not fair. Now, there are some that are successful to getting your children back. I think that is great. I think that is really, really great. Now, another way to participate in this podcast is to text me a message. I really like to work with your case. I had a case. I, too, have been fighting CPS for 15 years, and I do share my story with you. It's a traumatic experience of me. Now, all I ask is that when you text a question or a comment that pertains to CPS, please show your first name and show the city or the county that your case was in, and then follow with the state. And if you're from another country, you're more than welcome. Please show me your country and try to be very complete with your case. Tell me all you can so that we can all work and help you there. Now, another way that you can participate, a third way, is to be a guest on my podcast. And I love to have people on my podcast. I can have up to 9 of you talking at the same time. And all you need to do is get a hold of my show producer. Her name is Grace. And it's her email is grace@vincentwdavis.com. That is grace@vincentwdavis.com. She's our show producer. I thank her for what she does. She works really hard at her show. Now, I'm on twice a day 7 days a week. I come on at 10 o'clock, typically in the morning, Pacific Standard Time. That's on the West Coast of California. And then again at 7 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. And you just pick one of those times. Now, on the weekend, I come on and a couple hours early. I come on at 8 o'clock on Saturday and Sunday. So you just say, I want to be on Bob's morning show on Wednesday, or maybe Bob's Thursday evening show. So all I need is one of the 7 days of the week in either morning or evening. And that's all you have to do. And then she will put you on to this podcast. She'll give you a link. I use StreamYard application, and I broadcast it on YouTube. And she will tell you what to do, what to say, and what not to say on the podcast. She really will help you there. Now, a fourth way to interact with this podcast is to call me at 626-698-0990. That's 626-698-0990. And that is the phone number to reach me. It's my office number. I am available to talk during my show time. So I can only take calls during my show time. I cannot talk to you before or after the podcast. I cannot talk to you before or after the podcast. And so those are the ways, by being in this room and, listening, taking notes. Secondly, by text me messages. Thirdly, by being a guest on my podcast. And lastly, by calling in. Those are the four ways. Now, a lot of you have had horrible, horrible experiences. I have had too with CPS. It is not a very workable agency. A lot of them have gone rogue, and it seems like all of you have something in common in your particular cases. And I like to talk about topics that will help you. That's why I like your questions and comments. It isn't about me and my case. Yes, my case was horrible. And I relive it every day when I do this show. And I see the mistakes, and I've developed 5 rules that will help you with your case. And really quickly, the 5 rules are: you need to get a professional attorney trained in dependency law, family law, and juvenile law that has experience of fighting CPS. 2, you need to document everything. You need to keep track of everything. And the way to do it, you organize it in a notebook. And you have to start a very important document called the timeline log. It's where you keep track of all the incidents, whether they're with the police or social workers or school or whatever, and record it and write it down. Rule 3 is that you do not talk to CPS. You don't let them in your home, and you don't talk to them without an attorney present. You need to have an attorney present because they will try to take your child. You don't give it up. They can only give it up if they have a warrant. And then rule number 4 is to use the internet wisely. There's so much information on the internet. You just got to phrase your question correctly. And an easy format is the state, the city, the state, or the country. And then after that, put the letters CPS, and then refine your search by what question within CPS you want to know. And you'll be surprised at how much information comes up and how much it can help you with. And rule number 5 is to make sure you have copies of all your important documents. Your marriage certificates, your children's birth certificates, the children's grade reports and shot records, your driver's license, and those kinds of things that will help you in your case. And you put them all in envelope copies. and you attach it with your notebook. And that way you have all your important documents. You have all your important documents. Now, you have to be careful out there because CPS, a lot of them have gone rogue, and you can't trust them. They build up your emotions, and they'll tear you down. Fighting CPS is like doing open heart surgery. You need a professional, trained, and a fighter who will fight for your rights and rights for your case. The courts are very complex. It isn't a jury trial. It should be, but it isn't a jury trial. It's pretty much decided by the judge. And if you have a bad judge, it can go really bad against you. But if you have a good attorney, like I did, your case will eventually close and you get your kids back. I really had hoped that I got my kids back. Now, I have 6 grown children. Actually, yeah. 3 of my older ones and 3 of my younger ones. The youngest is 19. The oldest is 47. It's 3 girls, 3 boys. At the time of my incident of dealing with CPS, it was 2010. And I had just recently lost my job through no fault of my own. And I started dealing with the harassment by the CPS organization in the place where I lived, the county I lived. And it started off with these accusations that I did not know that were being made by my in-laws, my wife's mother and father, and her 2 sisters, 3 sisters, and her brother. And they're once a week. And there were silly things that they were trying to do, alienation. They were trying to get our children. They're taking advantage of when I'm not working and so forth. Because it is hard when you have very little income. And a lot of you have that in common. You're low income. They seem to want to attack people with low income because they know they can't afford an attorney. And what they try to do, they hope you take what's called a court-appointed attorney. And these court-appointed attorneys are not trained in juvenile law, family law, or dependency law. They're only trained in criminal law. And this is not a criminal court. You're being charged by an agency that's supposed to be entrusted by CPS to protect you guys, to help the family. That's a lot of things. We need to help one another. That's why I like this room, because so many of you are in here and you do talk among yourselves and among here that ways of trying to help you and everything. Good morning, Margaret. Margaret is one of our regulars from Missouri. It's so nice to see you. I know it's early, and I'm glad that you joined me this morning. And she says court-appointed attorneys, particularly CPS, are trained for further attempting for corrupting the system. Well, I don't know if they're trained. I think they're either dumb or duped into thinking some things. They're hired by CPS, they're paid by CPS, and they're controlled by CPS. You see, we have a civil right that any time that we are involved in a legal matter, which this is a legal matter, that we're supposed to have an attorney, if we can't afford one, appointed for us. The only problem is the court-appointed attorneys are the attorneys that that CPS provides, are controlled by CPS, and are not only that, are just starting out attorneys that only have expertise in criminal law, not in juvenile law, family law, dependency law. And they're so laden with cases. CPS keeps them full that way. so they don't have time to talk to you or fight your case. And your problem is your family is important. And that's why I say my rule number one is you need to get a professional attorney. You need to get a professional attorney. Now, Margaret says, I've been reaching out to our president, Donald Trump. He needs to investigate the system immediately. I'm so glad you're doing that, Margaret. You know, the other day I saw a YouTube video of him talking to a captain in the United States Navy, one of the youngest captains. I think at age 26, she was made captain of the United States Navy. Now, I remember when my dad was a captain of the United States Navy, but not at 26. But anyway, she wanted to talk to President Trump. So she wrote a letter to him and asked to tell him that she had some important things to say, because in her chain of command, she commanded, with commands, and one of the people that she commanded was killed, a young Navy man was killed in her command, not through no fault of her own, but her actions. She had to make decisions. So anyway, she wrote to President Trump, and there's a YouTube video. Her name is Emma. I forgot the last name of it, but it's an interview where she talked to President Trump. So our president's not hard to get a hold of. He has a Twitter account. He has a Facebook account. He likes to use the internet. And the White House has an address. And a lot of times letters are, of course, screened and so forth, but the letters of some merit, they should be. But I agree. We should reach out to President Trump, because the money that CPS, the rogue ones, spending is trillions of dollars. And there should be accountability. There's government waste, and that's one of the organizations that should be. Not only they're talking about the IRS or all the other ones, they're talking about the Department of Education and so forth. Well, social services should be investigated. And a part of social services is that child protection system. Part of social services is a child protection system. So I'm glad that you are reaching out. And it is an immediate concern, because there's enough of you. There's over 900 of you that your children have been taken and they weren't in danger. And families are taken advantage of because of economics. And yes, you should have an opportunity to correct things and get back together with your family. That's the part that is so sad. Now, I did talk about my 5 rules real quickly, and about 4 ways to participate in this room, and I hope you all do that. My phone number is up at 626-698-0990. I have a secondary number on my screen, 888-888-6582. That's the law offices of Mr. Davis. And you can call in there and speak to reception. And if you want handbooks or guides or so forth, they'll provide one. One of the newest books out there is called The Grandparent Guide, Step by Step, How to Get Guardianship of Your Child. That's good for everybody, whether you're a grandparent or a parent. And the book is available for $9.99, and I have it on sale. If you use my code, that's PACE, P-A-C-E 50. It's all capital letters, PACE 50. And you get a 50% off the $9.99. And that book, as I say, will help you. There's also another guide, Steps to Fighting CPS, that is very helpful. So you can call in and ask for those books. Or further, if you're ready to hire Mr. Davis as an attorney, you can call him and arrange to talk about his retainer and so forth. Now, by you calling in, or by you being a guest on the show, you'll qualify for 15 minutes with Mr. Davis. And that 15 minutes is free. It's a private Zoom consultation. And all you have to do is tell me, Bob, I want to speak to Mr. Davis. I'll ask you that when you call in or a guest on my podcast. Now, if you want to uh, if you want to talk to them for 30 minutes instead of 15 minutes, I do have a discounted rate of $60 for 30 minutes. That's $60 for 30 minutes. There is a ticket running across the bottom of my screen. It goes to a website. You go to that website, use your credit card, pay your $60, schedule a 30-minute private Zoom consultation with Mr. Davis, and he'll talk to you. So you get the 15 minutes for free, or if you want to talk longer, you get 30 minutes for $60. And then if you want to call in and retain them right away, you can call that number, 888-888-6582. Now, my number, 626-698-0990, is direct line to my phone. It's my office number, and I use Vonage. Vonage is a internet-based phone application, and you don't have to have it to talk to me. I'm just telling you up front what's the program I'm using. So it's very, very important that that you're able to speak to Mr. Davis. He wants to help you. He has podcasts every week on Saturday at 10 o'clock called Questions and Answers. You have to register for the podcast, everything like that. During the weekdays, he has Office Hours, which is another good podcast. It varies from time to time. And again, you can check that number, 888-888-6582. Or you can go to Vincent's website, and you can look him up, and they'll be laying things down there. So, Margaret, is there something else you'd like to share with us? Because I want this to be something that would help you. If there's questions that you have, or if you want to call in, you're welcome to call in. Margaret has called in before, and she has talked to me. And she has a tough situation getting her children back. But she has hired Mr. Davis to help her with her case. And what's the latest with your case, Margaret? What's the latest with your case? Give her a few minutes to answer that question. Margaret is talking about a petition that she wants to get. And what would the petition be on, or what would it say, or okay. I was just checking to see if my number worked, which is Vonage. And Margaret says, we know people in other states or have family. We can get them to start a petition as well. That's great. Fight the corruption and stop the illegal kidnapping by CPS. Yeah. Well, it's weird because they take our children, and it's against the law to traffic our children and to put them in foster care. Okay, the petition would be about an audit and investigation. Well, that sounds good. That sounds good. I know right now in Richmond, Kentucky, they're investigating where $1 million disappeared. Now, they have found one of the social workers in Richmond, Kentucky that has embezzled 400,000 of it. There's still 600,000 missing. And I think it's important because the way the money flows, it flows very freely from the government to the state and then down to the counties. There's no one watching it. There's no accountability. They're not transparent. There's no board of supervisors or directors that control or watches CPS. All they have is a government mandate by Congress to social services that they have a child protection system in place to protect our children from neglect and abuse. But they may have a director and they may have managers and supervisors, but I found that they're useless. They're not even worth what they say. They're not even worth what they say. They do not protect our children like they should. They do not protect our children like they should. I think if we had someone like that, an entity that watches them, and there's no need to give the exorbitant amount of money that they make. It's $1 trillion business. I know that my children, the county for my children that had my children, were receiving $20,000 per child. 3 children, that's $60,000. If they're special needs, they double the money. So it's $40,000 per child. And the money comes freely. They don't have to fight for it or appropriate it or anything else. They just say, hey, look, we need $50,000 or we need $100,000. It's trillions of dollars being made by CPS. And they give out bonuses and incentives. They shouldn't give it out. There was a mixed signal when they signed into law by Bill Clinton in 1994, where it said that if the CPS agencies finalized foster care adoption, that they'd get incentive money given to the CPS in addition to the other money for the sole purpose of quickly getting them into foster care and getting them adopted. Family reunification was put on the back seat. It was sad. And it's been going on since 94. Now, someone told me that they've stopped the incentive program. I don't know for a fact. I don't know what to believe half the time when I hear about CPS. They're so corrupt. You're like Alice in Wonderland. You've fallen in the rabbit hole in the garden and met the Chester cat, who's directing you from one room to the next room of nothing more than confusion. Off with your head, the Chester cat said in one of the rooms. It's ridiculous. It's ridiculous. You need a professional attorney. That's why a court-appointed attorney will not help you. And you need to find one. And the process of doing it is not that hard. You just phrase your question right on the internet. City, state, CPS, and then describe this attorney. You want a juvenile law, family law, dependency law attorney. And you'll see a list of them pop up. Then it's very important you find 3 of them that you can interview. And at first you contact the law office and ask, are you a licensed professional juvenile law, family law, dependency law attorney who's fought CPS and gotten children back? If the answer is yes, you ask the second question. You say, if the case is closed, have you sued a civil lawsuit against CPS in state or federal court and won money back from your lawsuit? If the answer again is yes, then you found the right kind of attorney that you need to interview. You need to set up a time to talk to them and see how much the retainer is. Also see the chemistry. You need to ask for 3 references so you can call the references and do that before you have his first meeting and know something about that individual. You can search the internet about that individual. There's lots of things you need to do. But when you get that attorney, your life would be so much better. I had to sell my home, quick sell my home, where I got half of the value of my home. And that was hard. That was hard to swallow because I'd worked 45 years for that home to get. And, I'd started working at the age of 15. And when I was laid off, I was 60 years old, and that was the hardest thing to do. And trying to find a career job since then has been really tough. Have been really, 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 really tough. So I'm telling you, it's so important. Hello there, John Elfer, and I'm glad to welcome you to the room. I'd like to talk to you. Could you please tell me what part of the world you're from? That would be great. That'd be great. And what is your case? What is your case there, John? Like to know about your particular case there. So we have a new person in the room that's joining Margaret from Missouri. Margaret's from Missouri. She's working on a petition to investigate and to audit CPS. She wants to investigate and audit, and she wants to get a petition going. John, and I'm glad that you found this room. You're from Palmdale, California. All right, I know we're Palmdale, California. You're in LA County. I think you're in LA County in Palmdale. I think you are. I think LA County goes out to Palmdale. That's a very hard situation. What is your case all about, John? How can I help you? What are your questions? Right, LA County. That's right. That's right. One of the terriblest counties in the country for CPS. All right, John. We have spoken many times. Was it underneath a different name, John, or I don't remember the John um, with the name of Elfer, but I'm glad to see you again. But I forgot where you're from. I forgot where you're from. And about your case, if you want to refresh me and share the room about your case and how we can help you. How we can help you, John. So I have Margaret and John in the room, and we're here to talk about CPS and how we can fight them and how corrupt they are and go over the rules that will help you there. And one of the rules I was talking about was getting an attorney. Oh, John says your case is closed. Um, all right. You say that you have four, um, some same name always. Okay. 3 years ago, we fought in court. Wow. Yeah, that's my case was fought in court from 2015 to 2017. And my case started in 2010 when I had false allegations by laymen. They're my in laws that were saying things that weren't true. And for 5 years, I had to fight that to finally CPS get tired of sending these accusations. See, they believe every accusation. It's the only court of law that you're guilty until you're proven innocent. You're guilty till you're proven innocent. And you had a paid attorney. Well, I'm so glad you did because that's the only way that you're really going to get your kids back is with a paid attorney. So I was saying earlier, court appointed attorneys will not work for you. They're overburdened with too many cases and they're not trained in juvenile law, family law, or dependency law. They stole your kids. I agree. They will steal your kids. My kids were stolen. In fact, one of them never came back. And sad, it was a social worker retaliating. And my girl was coached by a social worker that wanted to do revenge because she was caught committing perjury in court. She lied. And she lied so bad that my attorney, Vincent Davis, flushed her out. But she wanted to do something called revenge, and she did. And she got her daughter to emancipate at age 12. That means divorce from her mom and dad, her sisters, her brothers, her grandparents, her aunts and uncles and cousins. She changed her name completely. She had a beautiful middle name, Hanalei. It's a beautiful part of the world that I love, Hanalei, Kauai. And she sealed her birth certificate, got a new birth certificate, a new social security card, put the um, foster care parents as her parents. I guess our 12 years meant nothing to her anymore, which is sad because I remember taking care of her. I remember her trips and fun times with the family. It's really sad when you lose a child. Yes, they do treat you like a criminal. I experienced that. I know what you're talking about. Margaret, I know what you're talking about. They do treat you like a criminal. I agree. Um, John says it's very interesting. Number one, that I cannot believe is kept in the dark, and nobody really knows what is happening. Well, it's all about money. It's all about money. Yes, when they take away your child and convince a 12-year old does not know, how to see your birth certificate, how they get adopted, I mean, there's a lot of things that she was coached on. And she was lured because we were going through hard times. And one thing I do know with my daughter that she was upset about was that we no longer went to Disneyland. We couldn't afford it right now when I lost my job. You see, I spoiled my kids. I made good money, had a beautiful home at the beach, private neighborhood, private CC&Rs. She had her own room, her own bathroom, and she was taken to school. She didn't have to walk to school. She didn't have to ride a bus. She had a front door chauffeur that drop her off and pick her up. I did it with all my children because I love my children and I was worried about the safety. Plus, it was an opportunity for me when I was not working to be with my children. So it is a hard thing. It is a really hard thing. Um, I know what you're saying, John. I know what you're saying. Hey, Margaret, I don't think they'll abolish the IRS, but I do think it should be a simplified tax process. I think what it is that every dollar you made, 10%, 10 cents of it goes to the government. How they give it to the states is their own business. I'm just saying 10%. So for on the dollar, 10 cents goes. Now, they collect that up front. And there should be no way that people can itemize. And that is what the biggest problem is that the richer try to lower their tax bracket by itemizing. And I think that is how our problem is. If everybody gave 10 cents on the dollar, there would be enough money because they take that money and they can make interest on it and use the money to run the government. 10%, it's in the Bible. They say 10% of your money should go to the church. Well, maybe 10% should also go to the government. It's a simple process. All through the years, they collect money and they do it really bad. And they always would collect more than 10%. They'd take your grain that you grow, your crops you grow, and stuff like that. Today, the IRS has become a monster organization and they go after sometimes the wrong kinds of people and they nickel and dime people. They nickel and dime. I know from experience. But I don't see us getting rid of the IRS. I just think they should make it simple. I think they should do definitely that you just have 10% of your income and it should be collected throughout the course of the year. Now, if you're private, you still declare the money. You still declare the money. And the way they do it now, it's so frivolous. And that's why he's weeding and making things down there. So, John has a question. My question is, do you know how much money they're getting every year on an average in the entire U.S.? Who are you talking about? Are you talking about the U.S. government? Are you talking about Department of Welfare, Department of Education? Um, John, the U.S. gets a lots of money. There's one thing that people forget that your Social Security, which is money that the government sets aside for you later in life to give it to you in dribbles. They give it to you in dribbles. And the sad part about it is you don't get any interest off that Social Security money that they hold for 50 years. Or whenever you take your money out. I think early retirement is now 62, and you're penalized too out of your retirement. So they take the interest and they run the government with the interest. You don't see in the interest. What I think is sad is the money should be put into a special account that does collect interest, that is available when you do retire. Maybe they're worried that people can't save the money and they will spend it. They will spend it. So that's why they take the Social Security and call it retirement. But the interest, the government keeps the interest. You don't. They use your money and they collect that interest. And if you make $1 million in your lifetime, that's $1 million of interest that they made off you that you'll never see. Also, if you had $1 million taken out, it's going to be set aside and given to you in dribbles. I mean, in dribbles that you barely can use it to live on. Our economy is so bad. I mean, if you get a raise or more money allocated to you, let's say you get $100, well, that will unqualify you for getting the food assistance or any other kind of assistance, medical assistance. It's funny how $100 can make that much of a difference, and food keeps going up and up and up and up. John, I don't really have an idea because I'm here to talk about CPS, the Child Protection Agency. I need the child welfare system. I agree. I think they do because why? It's not being monitored. The money comes in from the federal government, freely asked by the state, and the state freely gives the money to the county. And it's a good reason to help out one another. There's no question. People go through hard times. But the money doesn't go to the person. It goes to the government employees, the social workers, through bonuses and incentives. My social worker in my CPS matter was bragging about her clothes she buy, her eyelashes, her makeup, her Gucci purse, her BMW car. That's all she talked about. That's all she talked about. And so I agree with you. Welfare is where a lot of our money is. Margaret says, can you call in, John? Can you call in? Margaret says, call in, John. Bob, do I need to call in? Well, if you want to talk on the show, you can. I have about 5 minutes left of my podcast, so you could talk for 5 minutes. Margaret wants to know more what you're asking about. She wants to know more what you're asking about. But I want to keep to CPS. We're here to talk about the child protection system. And yes, there are certain entities that are corrupt. Not all child protection systems are bad. But I know at least 900 of them, or over 900 of them, because that's how many people that have called into the show, that have texted the show, that have been from other countries, that have called in from other countries. John says, Margaret, I already know the answer. I just want to know if he knew the answer. And anyway, we're here to talk about the child protection system and how corrupt it is. There was an act passed called the ICWA Act of 1978. It's the Indian Child Welfare Act. And you probably say, why we're talking about the Indians? A lot of people think the Indians were bad people. The trouble was the first immigrants to this country were the indigenous people that lived here. And they were called Indians because Christopher Columbus thought he was in India when he was in the Caribbean area. He thought he had discovered India. So he called the indigenous people there Indians. That's why they're called Indians. Now in Canada, they're called the First Nation people. The United States are called the Native American Indian. And they have entities like the American Indian Movement. The sad part about these people in the late 1800s is that they were put on reservations. And not only were they put on reservations, their children were taken and put into private schools and a haircut, and they're no longer wearing their clothing of their particular tribe, and they no longer could speak the language or practice their rituals. And what happened for a long time, it wasn't until 1978 when they passed this law, but the kids would be put into foster care right away. There was no chance of reunification. Now, with the ICWA Act, the Indian Child Welfare Act, it says that CPS must first determine if that child is a Native American Indian. And most tribes, there's 847 federal funded tribes. Most tribes are, you are a member of the tribe. If you can be registered or could be registered, then those children with that new act are placed into the reservations so the Indians take care of their own. They put them with other Indian families for the purpose of reunification. And it's sad to say, for a long time, the Indians were disadopted. And there was no chance for reunification with their parents. That's why they passed that law. I don't know the exact dollar, John, that CPS gets. I know it's trillions of dollars that they make. Trillions of dollars. And anyway, they had this act passed and so forth. And Indian children now today have a better chance of being with their families, be reunified. And so, you know how much $1 trillion is, and that's how much CPS makes per year, is over $1 trillion. Over $1 trillion, not millions, not billions, $1 trillion a year. And there's another important system in CPS you should know about, is how to file a 388 motion. Now, a 388 motion may have different names in different states, but what it is if you've completed your classes or you have something new to share with the judge, you file what's called a 388 motion. That motion then alerts the judge that you have something new that you want to introduce into court. And within 30 days, he sets up a court hearing to hear your new matter, to see what's new, to make changes to your case plan, to have your children return home. So you need to know about how to do that with your attorney, whether it's a court-appointed attorney, a public defender, or a paid professional attorney that you hired. You need to make sure that you keep still fighting as times change. So that is very, very, very important. Now we have about 5 minutes left. Or excuse me, we have, it's 8 o'clock. I guess I have talked. 9 o'clock. I'm sorry, it's 9:02. And I need to end my podcast. I want to thank John, who was interesting in giving his input about CPS. I want to thank Margaret from Missouri. And John, you're from LA County out in Palmdale. I want to thank you, John. And I'm glad your case is over. And thank you for stopping by, both of you for stopping by and be a part of the podcast. I want you to still fight for your children and don't give up. Don't give up. And you'll be able to get your child back. You'll be able to get your child back. You keep fighting for them. And thank you, Philistine from Canada, for your emoji. She's a Canadian that's spoken on the show. So thank you all. I'll see you tonight at 7 p.m. That's called Pacific Standard Time, the West Coast of California. And I'll have my second podcast today. So God bless you all. And as I say, don't give up. This is Bob Pace.